everybody?
Yes,
Oh.
yes, we can hear you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 5 Karma Yoga Action in Krishna Consciousness. Verse 1 Arjuna Uvacha Sanyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Cha Sansasi Yachreyayeta Yurekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishchitam.
Krishna Mataji, if you are speaking, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. I'm so
Okay.
sorry, Prabhuji.
Okay,
I'll
no
start
problem.
over again.
Okay, yeah.
Arjuna said, "O Krishna, first of all, you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?"
Next to Sanyasah Karma Yogascha Nishreyasa Karaubo Tayostu Karma Sanyasat Karma Yogo Vishishyate.
The personality of Godhead replied, "The renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work."
Text 3 Gyeyah sa nitya sannyasi yo na dvesti na kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate.
One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. O mighty Arjuna.
Text 4 Sankhya yogo prithak bala pravadanti na pandita ekamapyastitah samyuk payorvidante phalam.
Only the ignorant speak of devotional service karma yoga as being different from analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both.
Verse 5 Yata Sankhya prapyate sthanam tada yogerapi gamyate ekam sankyam cha yogam cha yah pashyati sa pashyati.
One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are.
Verse 6 Sanyasastu mahabaho dukham aptum yogatah yogayukto muni brahma na chirena digacchati.
Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay.
Verse 7 Yoga yukto visuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarva bhutatma kurvannapi na lipyate.
One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled.
Verse 8 and 9. नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति युक्तो मन्येतात्ववित् पश्यन् शृण्वन् स्पृशजित् अन्नशन्न गच्छ स्वपन् स्वसन् प्रलपन् विसृजन् गृहन् मुनिः सन्नरपि इन्द्रियाणि इन्द्रियार्थेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन्.
A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving, about, sleeping, and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them.
Verse 10. ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्माणि सङ्गत्यक्त्वा करोति यः लिप्यते न स पापेन पद्मपत्रमिवाम्भसा.
One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action as a lotus leaf is untouched by water.
Verse 11. कायेन मनसा बुद्धया केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति सङ्गत्यक्त्वात्मशुद्धये.
The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification.
Verse 12. युक्तः कर्मफलं त्यक्त्वा शान्तिमाप्नोति नैष्ठिकीम् अयुक्तः कामकारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते.
The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled.
Verse 30. सर्वकर्माणि मनसा सन्न्यास्यास्ते सुखं वशे नवद्वारे पुरे देहि नैव कुर्वन् कारयन्.
When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done.
Verse 14. न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते.
The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature.
Verse 15. नादते कस्यचित् पापं न चैव सुकृतं विभुः अज्ञानेन नावृतं ज्ञानं तेन मुह्यन्ति जन्तवः.
Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge.
Verse 16. ज्ञानेन तु तज्ज्ञानं येषानासीतमात्मनः तेषामदित्यवज्ञानं प्रकाशयति तत्परम्.
When, however, one is enlightened by the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime.
Verse 17. तद्बुद्धया तत् आत्मानः षष्ठीष्टान्तस्तपरायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिं Gnana Nirdhuta Kalmasa.
When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
Verse 18. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Sunicheva Swapake Chapanditaha Samadarsinah.
The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater outcast.
Verse 19. Iheva Tersitaha Sargo Yesam Samye Stitam Manah Nirdosam Hi Samam Brahma Tasmad Brahmani Te Stitaha.
Those whose minds are established in the sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman.
Verse 20. न प्रहयसेत् प्रियं प्राप्य नो द्विजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिरबुद्धिर्सम्मुतो ब्रह्मविद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः.
A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God is already situated in transcendence.
Verse 21. बाह्यस्पर्शेषु असक्त आत्मा विदन्तयात्मनि यत् सुखं स ब्रह्मयोगयुक्तात्मा सुखम् अक्षयम् आश्रुते.
Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme.
Verse 22. ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोयन एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न ते सुरमते बुधः.
An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end. So the wise man does not delight in them.
Verse 23. शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुं प्राक् शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधोद्वं वेगं स युक्तः स सुखी नरः.
Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world.
Verse 24. यः अन्तः सुखो अन्तर् आमस्तथान्तर् ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्म निर्वाणं ब्रह्मभूतो अधिगच्छति.
One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme and ultimately he attains the Supreme.
Verse 25. लभन्ते ब्रह्म निर्वाणं ऋषयः क्षीणकल्मषः छिन्नद्वैता यतात्मानं सर्वभूतहिते रतः.
Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme.
Verse 26. कामक्रोधविमुक्तानां यतीनां यतचेतसाम् अभितो ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं वर्तते विदितात्मनाम्.
Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future.
Verse 27-28. Sparshan kritva bahirbahyas चक्षुष्वेवान्तरे भ्रुवोः प्राणपानो समूकृत्वा नासाभ्यन्तरचारिणो यतेन्द्रियमनोबुद्धिर्मुनिर्क्षमोक्षरपरायणः विगतेच्छाक्भयक्रोधो यः सदा मुक्त एव सः.
Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated.
Verse 29. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvalokmaheshwara suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam santimurchati.
A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries.
Hare Krishna. Thank you
इति
so much.
श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्याया योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे कर्मयोग नाम पंचमोऽध्यायः. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you
Prabhu.
so much. Thank you very much. Usha Mataji very nicely recited the Sanskrit, nice pronunciations. And Uma Mataji, super, very, very nicely, very eloquently recited the English. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for
Thank you,
giving me
Prabhu.
the
Hare
opportunity.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, we'll go on to our presentation and continue reading the chapter 5. We're coming towards the end of the chapter 5. Let me just rearrange my screen so I know what I'm doing. Okay. Right, so chapter 5. We'll just do a quick summary as we normally do. Chapter 5. So verses 1 to 6 spoke about Nishkam Karma Yoga. And the Lord said that it's easier than pronouncing work, because that was the question Arjun was asking. 7 to 12 spoke about how to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga. Then 13 to 16 was on the platform of knowledge, knowing the three doers. And 17 to 26, which is the current section, speaking about liberation by focusing on the super soul. Oh, I'm just wondering why 27 is not there. Okay. Right, so 25, today we're reading 25. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 25. Labhante Brahma Nirvanam Rishaya Kshina Kalmashaha Chinnadvadda Yatatmanaha Sarvabhuta Hiterata. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. We go to the purport. There's 2 paragraphs, so maybe we can just have 2 different people reading them. So let's see. Girish Prabhu, if you can, we'll be read the first paragraph, and I'll just see who else. I think it's Sandeep Prabhu, right? KK, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama. Is that Sandeep Prabhu? No, maybe not. Okay, Mitali Mataji can read the second paragraph. So perhaps we can start reading. Girish Prabhu, you there? Okay, in that case, we will go to, let's see what I can find here. Okay, Mitali Mataji, you can read the first one.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The suffering of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor and the supreme friend. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no doubt about the supremacy of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. This is the state of divine love.
Thank you, Mitali Mataji.
Hare
So, okay, Meena Mataji, you unmuted myself. Meena Mataji, can you read the second one, please? Okay, Meena Mataji muted again. Girish Prabhu, are you there? No, okay. Venkat Prabhu, if you can unmute yourself.
Yes, Prabhu, yeah, thank you. A person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material turbulence. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you, both of you. Thank you. Om Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sargana Gunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Svitamsha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Krishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Charu Swami Nityamini, Snigdha Cheta Supraneta Vagminam Charasaputam Prabhupada Gata Pranam Naumi Bhakti Charu Padam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityamini, Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pachari Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pashkatade Shatari. Prabhupada Ki Jai. So welcome everybody once again. We're going to move on and discuss this time we'll discuss the verse first. So there's 5 types of persons mentioned in the verse. So just go through them one by one. Rishaya. Rishaya means those who are active within. So this topic was the same yesterday. Yesterday's class also spoke about being active within. So one basically who's not looking for any satisfaction from the material world, nothing from the external sources. He is able to connect with his soul. He's not in the bodily conscious. That is the meaning of this. Once you are acting within, that means that you are actually in touch with the soul and the super soul, in which case you are very peaceful. So that's type number 1. Person number 2 is Shina Kalmasha. Those who are devoid of all sins. Kalmasha. Kalmasha refers to sins in this case. Kalmasha can also refer to impurity sometimes, it's referred to as. So Kalmasha. So those who are devoid of all sins. So there is a beautiful verse in the 10th canto. 10th canto, the Gopi Gita version, 10:31:9, which my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Guru Maharaj was used to sing very, very nicely. So we will try, and I'll try and sing it like he did. Of course, I'll never be able to sing exactly as he did, but he sing this very, very melodiously. So this is a beautiful verse, talking about also other things, but also talking about Kalmasha. Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiritam Kalmashapaham Shramana Mangalam Srimadatam Bhuri Grinanti Ye Bhurida Janam. This is in the Gopi Gita, the gopis are saying this, the gopis are singing this. Of your world entities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations transmitted by learned sages eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon them, upon whoever hears them. So Kalmasha here, it says Kalmasha means we are eradicating one's sinful reactions. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread this message of Godhead are most munificent. So this, incidentally, this is also the verse that, who was that king? King Pratap Rudra. You could just think about the Chaitanya Leela for the time being. There was a powerful king called King Pratap Rudra. He was also a devotee, and he always was eager to have the audience of Lord Chaitanya. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being in a sannyas state, he refused to meet any materialistic people. He says, no, I don't want to meet any kings. I don't associate with kings. So many, many times the king tried to arrange to meet him, but he refused. And finally, some devotees advised him to just, instead of being a king, maybe he can dress like an ordinary person. And maybe then Mahaprabhu will see him. So during the Rath Yatra, when the Rath Yatra was resting at one place, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also taking rest in a garden nearby. And King Pratap Rudra goes there and starts massaging his feet. He was dressed like an ordinary person. And he sings this verse, Tava Kathamritam. And Mahaprabhu at once gets up and hugs him, gives him an embrace, and he starts saying, Bhurida, Bhurida, Bhurida. He touched his heart. So this is a very beautiful verse. So the point being, yes. So here in this verse, Shina Kalmasha. Shina means tearing off, removing, literally. So Shina Kalmasha, the word of all sins. Then the third is Chinna Dvaita. Chinna Dvaita means removal of all dualities that arise from doubts. So dualities, so once we are free from the dualities of happiness and distress, heat and cold, these kind of things which are always suffering, we are suffering from. But once we realize that we are the soul is beyond all these material things, then we are said to be beyond any of these dualities. There's a verse in the 7th chapter talks about this. Yesham pantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam. Te dvandva, here he says Dvaidha. Let's say in that verse, Te dvanda moha nirmukta, Te dvanda nirmukta, bhajante mam dhidavata. So saying that persons who've acted piously in this life and in previous life, and whose sinful actions have been eradicated, dvanda, and freed from dualities of delusion. This is dvanda. So these are the persons who engage in my devotion service with determination. So many places we will see this mentioned about how we need to get ourselves connected to our real self, and this way we can rise beyond the dualities of this world. Then yata atmana, being engaged in self-realization. So literally engaging. We went last session we did. I think I went through a lot of these statements from Srila Prabhupada where he explained what self-realization means. Literally meaning to understand the self and to understand our connection with the Supreme Lord. That is self-realization. And also the third thing is to understand how to act whilst we're in this body. So the person has to be like that. And then the last one is Sarva Bhuta Hiterata. So who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings. So these kind of people, they are mentioned here as the people who are able to rise above the dualities and find peace. So see, busy with all welfare. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So what happens to these 5 kind of people? And it says, the last line of the verse says, Labante Brahma Nirvanam, which means they achieve liberation in the Supreme. This is what this verse is saying, that all these 5 kind of people, they achieve liberation in the Supreme. So there's 5 kinds of liberation that we all know of, that we explained in the Shastras. So can we name them, anybody? There's 1 negative and 4 positive type of liberations. Anybody name any?
Sahija Mukti, Sarupya.
Very good, Venka Prabhu.
Sarupya.
Yeah, so you got 2, Sahaja, Sarupya.
I think Salokya, something.
Yes, Salokya.
And
2 more, can anybody help?
Samipya.
yes.
Did Anamata Madhu repeat that? Samipya, yes. Samipya, yes.
Yeah.
And then last one. Sarsi. So these are the liberators. So this is Sayuja. This is, the devotees call this a negative one. We don't at all aspire for this. Sayuja Mukti means merging into the Brahman feature of the Lord. So this is the destination of the impersonalists. Their destination is to finally merge into the Brahman Jyoti. But as Prabhupada will explain in many places, that this is not what the devotees aspire for. Devotees don't want to lose their identity. and just merge into the Brahmajyoti. The devotees want to associate and serve the Supreme Lord. So we want to maintain our distinct identity as a servant of the Lord and have that loving relationship with him. Salokya means living on the same planet as the Lord, whether it's a Vaikuntha planet mainly, or even on the Golok Vrindavan, but living on the same planet. Samipya means living as a personal associate of the Lord. Sarupya means having the same form like the Lord. As we know, people who actually, the souls who go back to the Vaikuntha planets, it is said that they actually all have the Vishnu form. They would actually look alike, look like Lord Vishnu. So this is the Sarupya Mukti. And then Shasti means achieving the opulences equal to that of the Lord. So these are the 5 kind of liberations. And as I said, actually the devotees, as we know, devotees do not aspire for any of these. First one definitely is a no-no, but even the other 4, we do not aspire for this kind of liberations because the devotees' wish is always to be serving the Lord. We don't want particularly to be liberated. We want to be serving the Lord. And our prayer is, my Lord, doesn't matter where you leave me, where you keep me, doesn't matter where I am. Just let me remain in your service or the service of your devotees. So devotees don't really aspire for liberation. But as I was saying also the last time, Bilva Mangal Thakur says that the liberation comes as an automatic side effect of devotion. When we're doing devotional service, the Lord will give us liberation. It is said, Bilva Mangal Thakur says, Bhakti Stvai Sthiratara Bhagavan Yadi Syat Daivena Na Falati Divya Kishora Murti Mukti Swayam Mukuli Tanjali Sevate Sman. Armath Kama Tataya Samaya Pratiksha. So it says that not just Dharma, Artha, and Kama, they're also there, Pratiksha, they're waiting for you, but also Mukti Swayam Mukuli Tanjali Sevate Sman. So folding hands, with folded hands, Mukti is waiting for the devotee. So the devotee doesn't have to separately endeavor for Mukti. Continuing on the purport, Prabhupada says the sufferings of humanity are due to the forgetfulness of Krishna as a supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. So forgetfulness. And Prabhupada often reuses this particular verse. It's not actually, I don't know which actually Shastra it comes from, but Prabhupada uses it. I think it's from one of the previous Shastra. I don't know which one it is, but it says, Krishna Bhuliya Jeev Bhogavacha Kare Pashate Maya Tare Japati Adare. Which means that because we forget the Lord, because we forget Krishna, as soon as we forget Krishna, Maya grabs us. Pasate Maya Tare Japati Adare. Maya grabs us hard. So forgetfulness of Krishna, as Prabhupada says here, is the reason why we're in the material world. Then he says that because we forget that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. So anybody can tell me which verse in Bhagavad Gita speaks about this? It's actually in the 5th canto as well. I heard somebody unmute. Yeah, Krishna Mataji. Okay, 529. Now I'll give them the number. Anybody know this one? Very famous verse. Bhoktaram, everybody will know, I'm sure. Vasudeva Mataji knows. Bhoktaram Jagatapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Yatma Mam Shantim Brichyati. Prabhupada calls it the peace formula. So a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So this verse actually is already confirming. So it will come the next 4 days. And I don't want to steal the thunder from whoever is going to do that. But this is confirming, literally actually summarizing this particular chapter. And particularly the part that we're going through now. Next part says, therefore, to act to revive the consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. So this is interesting. Welfare work. Whenever we think about welfare work, we think about feeding the poor. We think about housing the poor. We think about building hospitals. This is what generally people think about. Giving charity, welfare work. But here, it says the highest welfare work is to revive this consciousness. What consciousness? The consciousness of Krishna, Krishna consciousness. So there's a verse in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 7, text 44, which Sukadeva Goswami is speaking. This actually is happening exactly soon after Lord Shiva. This is during this the churning of the ocean, the ocean, and Lord Shiva has just taken all the poison, and he's holding it on his throat. At that time, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking this verse. He says, Tapyante lokatapena sadhava prayasho jana paramaradhanam tatti purushasya kilatmana. You can see I'm not familiar with it, I just was studying it today. So it is said that great personalities always accept voluntary sufferings because of the sufferings of a people in general. This is considered the highest method of worship, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present in everyone's heart. So you can see that these great personalities do this kind of work, going through great sufferings themselves. So not the welfare of building hospitals or giving charity, but this welfare of giving Krishna consciousness to everybody. And let's just look at the purport of this verse, and then we can ask the question. The Prabhupada is saying here, there are different kinds of welfare activities in this material world, but the supreme welfare activity is spreading of Krishna consciousness. Other welfare activities cannot be effective, for the laws of nature will result, and the results of karma cannot be checked. It is by destiny or the laws of karma that one must suffer or enjoy. Therefore, one should endeavor for that which is never obtained by wandering up and down the universe as a result of the reactions of karma. What is that? One should endeavor to become Krishna consciousness. If one tries to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, he should be understood to be performing the best welfare activity. The Lord is automatically very pleased with him. So you see, by doing other kinds of activities, as I was saying, by feeding somebody, he'll be happy for 4 hours and then he'll be hungry again. By giving somebody some clothing, a few months, then the clothes will get torn again. So all those things are temporary. But by giving somebody Krishna consciousness, by connecting him to his real self and to the Supreme Lord, that person is actually relieved from going up and down this material world like a Ferris wheel, taking birth as a human being, taking birth as a demigod, taking birth as an ant. All those things are cut out. And that person receives permanent peace. So Prabhupada says in the purport, one cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. So who do we know as the highest welfare worker? Somebody who's done this.
Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah,
Prabhupada.
Thank you so much. Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Prabhupada, this verse, he says voluntary suffering. Prabhupada was situated so happily in Vrindavan, in Radha Damodar temple. Comfortably, everybody was looking after him. There was no reason for him to leave. But he left. He took all the austerity so that he can spread and do this highest welfare work for the benefit of others. there was nothing in it for him. He just went through suffering, and we all know how much he suffered for the first 1 or 2 years before devotees came forward to help him. He was completely alone, sharing, initially was sharing a loft apartment with a drug addict. The person attacked him one day. He had to run out of the house. He lost his, there was a burglary and he lost his typewriter and 6 months worth of translation work and all that. So, he suffered no end, but he was still determined because he understood that this is what I'm doing is the highest welfare work. Prabhupada then says, a person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot actually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. So you see, temporarily we can sort out things for people, but again, they will be in trouble. So this particular verse in the 2nd chapter, 1st Canto text 4, talks about this sort of people who we're speaking about, trying to just sort out, and they are basically thinking that if I'm just being a good person, if I give in charity, if I look after my family, if I look after the extended family, if I look after the town, the village, if I look after the country, if I help all those people, then I will be happy. Then I'm a good citizen, I'm a good person. No, but here it says, Nihapate kala kalatra deshvatmasainyas vasatapi tesham pramata nidhanam pashyam api na pashyati. They are seeing but not seeing. Pashyan api na pashyati. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see the inevitable destruction. So everything that we try and work for all our life, for our families, for the town, for supporting the community, the country, whatever we're doing, it's all temporary. So the person, he is sufficiently experienced. He can see that people before me, my grandfather has died, my father has perhaps left his body. Everybody around me is going to leave the body. So everything is temporary. Why am I making so much endeavor for all these temporary things? But he says, he's seeing but not seeing. Prabhupada says in the purport, the whole materialistic advancement of human society, civilization is like decoration of a dead body. Everyone is a dead body flapping only for a few days. And yet all the energy of human life is being wasted in the decoration of this dead body. Shukadeva Goswami is pointing out the duty of the human being after showing the actual position of bewildered human activities. Persons who are devoid of knowledge of Atma Tattva are misguided, but those who are devotees of the Lord and have perfect realization of transcendental knowledge are not bewildered. So interesting, very, very powerful verse. We're running out of time. Let me just go through the last couple of slides and then we can stop. The real cause of, Prabhupada says, the real cause of one's difficulty is the hard struggle of life and may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna, with the Supreme Lord. The point is repeated again. And again, in the 2nd canto, Shukadeva Goswami is saying something more. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Bhyan Swadharma Parinistaya Janma Labha Parapamsam Ante Narayana Switi. The perfection of life is this. The highest perfection of human life is achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of open mission duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. So by giving somebody Krishna consciousness, why is this the highest welfare activity? Because by giving him Krishna consciousness, he will come to this stage where he will remember Krishna at the end of his life. And in the 4th chapter, we will read a verse which says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvata yaktva deham punar janma naiti mameti sojana. So he says, person says that whoever knows, understands the nature of my appearance and activities will not at the end of this life take birth again in the material world, but he will attain my supreme abode, something like that. So that by giving them Krishna consciousness, by giving them the understanding of their real self, we are doing the highest welfare society because factors of society, because we are giving them the path for liberation, where they've given them the path for liberation, not just any liberation, but the liberation to go back to Godhead, to go back to serve the Lord in Golok Vrindavan. This is why it is the most supreme occupation and most supreme welfare activity. I will stop here, devotees, and I will invite any comments, questions, reflections, corrections.
Prabhuji, Hari Bol.
Haribol. Haribol Namata Mataji.
Prabhuji, thank you so much for a wonderful class, as always, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, I have to say, sorry, I wanted to say, Prabhuji, you sang the verse very beautifully, Prabhuji, the first verse that you sang. So thank you so much. It was so divine.
Thank you. This was
Prabhuji,
Guru Maharaj's mercy. If you think I sang it well, you should hear it from my Guru Maharaj. There will be many recordings online. He sings
I'll
this.
try and have a look, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, what does this line mean, Prabhuji? Sorry, I try and read the verse before I come, Prabhuji, on the
Yes.
class if I can, because then it goes better in my head. So, Prabhuji, I was
Mhm.
reading through this, and it says, one cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme.
Hmm.
What does just that one line mean, Prabhuji?
Okay, right. So it means something like this, a little bit like this. The analogy I can give is that when you are on a plane, and before the plane takes off, there's an announcement about how to put on the mask, how to put on your seat belt and everything. And one thing they say is that if you have got infants or somebody else you need to help, you need to put your mask on first, right? They always say, put your mask on first, then you can help somebody else, right? Because if there's lack of oxygen, you're trying to help somebody else, and you then faint because there's no oxygen in your lungs, then you're not going to be any good to anybody. So similarly, we need to be in that consciousness. So here it says we need to be liberated before we can help somebody. But that of course is the ideal situation, right? Prabhupada was liberated, and that's why you can see the power of Prabhupada. Prabhupada, because he was a liberated soul, he was able to make devotees in their thousands, tens of thousands, right? But
Yeah.
we are all practicing. We are not liberated yet. So in our case, it doesn't mean that we have to wait till liberation, but we, in our small way, whatever small way we can, as much advancement we have made, we just try and share that with somebody. And this way, we can bring them along with us. So slowly, maybe by the end of our life, if we ourselves can make one pure devotee, forget about thousands and 10,000 Prabhupada made. If we can make one devotee, then we have been successful in life. So that is what it means. So being liberated before you can help anybody means that you have to be on this path seriously, sincerely. If you're on the path sincerely, you can pull somebody with you.
Thank
Does
you,
that make
Prabhuji.
sense?
It makes complete sense. Prabhuji, can I ask one more question? Sorry. Thank you so much. That was very clear, first of all. So, Prabhuji, all the five persons that you spoke about, why would we say, why did you say, Prabhuji, that we want to just be the devotee of the Lord and not go on the liberation path? Because again, I'm being a bit selfish here, Prabhuji, but the more I read, the more I understand. My aim is obviously going back to Godhead. So that is my aim. So and going back to Godhead, I can still be a devotee. Would that not be a fair point to say, Prabhuji?
Yes, absolutely. So Namata Mataji is fine. It is okay to desire to go back to Godhead. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But as it is said, and I'm saying this, I'm not saying this because I'm on that stage, but it is said that as we advance more on the path, we will see that even that is minimal. We don't particularly want to ask the Lord even for that. Although yes, that is the ideal situation. But when we are more advanced, we will say to Krishna, Krishna, you use me as you wish to use me. If you think that someone in hell needs some help, you can send me there and I'll try and help him.
Beautiful, Prabhuji. Thank
But
you.
what it was saying, what was saying, one of the lines I read also in this one of the slides was that, yeah, this is Bilam Mugatako saying that, yes, but Mukti is standing there with folded hands, right? Mukti, Mukti Swayam Mukulitanjali Sevate Sma. So Mukti is waiting for you anyway. So it's ready whenever you want to take it. But devotees, pure devotees, particularly don't even aspire for that. That is the point.
Okay, understood, Prabhuji. Thank you, Haribol.
Thank you, Namatamata. Thank you for the nice questions. Anybody else? Just also wanted to remind everybody about these Dharma Packs. We spoke about the Dharma Packs, didn't we, last time? So you can go online, and today was the last day of the marathon, but still over the weekend you can go online. The details are there on the chat, all the WhatsApp groups. Saptarisis is a book, a pack of 7 beautiful books. These books are small books, so it's not very heavy reading, and you can gift them to somebody, and it'll change their life because it contains the complete philosophy of Mahaprabhu. But if you haven't got anybody to give them to, then what you can do is just sponsor some. So go on that link and you can sponsor sets of these Dharma packs, which then the manna can deliver to wonderful places, places where, when I say wonderful places, I mean places where they can be used wonderfully. So prisons, hospitals, care homes, etc., etc., and those your Lakshmi will be used to again change somebody's life. So that is today we're speaking about the highest welfare. That would be the highest welfare. So I suppose if you haven't done so already, everybody on this line can do this highest one thing today. Just go online. It's only £12 for a pack, and you can just sponsor one, or you can sponsor 5 or 10 or whatever, Yatha Shakti, whatever you want to do. But just get online and at least let's do that. Let's support this campaign. And in the meantime, let's also realize today's verse in terms of performing the highest welfare activity. Anybody else? Any comments?
Prabhuji, I have one more question, but I'll wait if anybody else has any questions.
Okay, I don't think anybody. I haven't looked at the chat box. There's nothing on the chat either. So yeah, okay. I think you can go ahead, Namata Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So Prabhuji, I'll just give you a live example as to what happened today. I wouldn't name and shame anybody, but somebody from my family obviously told me that I was talking to them about the sponsoring the books, the Dharma Pack, and I get a bit passionate about it. So I start talking about it. And obviously one of the things that they told me is like, oh, you know, the Bhagavad Gita and stuff that you gave us, Beta, that, you know, we even haven't read it. So why are you I mean, obviously they're family members, so they're going to obviously tell me what they think is right. And they're saying to me, why are you wasting your money on sponsoring the books and stuff? And this is just, it's purely, they're trying to think from they think that's for my benefit. They said, people don't sometimes even open the books and they don't even read it. Now, I can sit there and keep arguing, or I could explain them my point of view. But then, Prabhuji, what do you do going forward? What I mean by that is, do I keep talking about it, encouraging them, even though I know I'm always going to have pushback from those type of people? Or do I just let it go? Because if I want the welfare of the person, because I genuinely want the welfare of the person, do I just let it go? Or what do I do? What do you do? What would you do if you were in that situation, Prabhuji?
That's a very, very nice question, Namata Mataji, and I'm sure all of us, I have the same situation with my family members. So what I do generally is gently, very gently, I keep explaining to them. First of all, I explain to them that look, the whole devotee community, so many Western people, they have turned themselves into devotees, given up all the bad habits by reading these books. So this is the power of these books. So don't underestimate them right now. And I say, yes, right now, understand you're busy, you have a young family, for example, somebody may be right in the middle of a really sort of very busy career. So I can say, yeah, I can understand, yes, but try and find at least 5 minutes if you can read this. So I will try and do it like that, just try and gently persuade them. What I will do Namata Mataji, as long as they are not offensive, as long as they are willing to listen, I would do this, but do it very gently, and it's very individual because each person reacts differently. Even within your family members, one will be willing to listen a little bit, other may not. So you can judge yourself individually, but for those who are able to tolerate the preaching, to them I would continue preaching, because one day the penny will drop. And really, there is absolutely no doubt in our mind that these books are actually a powerhouse of knowledge and has the power to change lives. So we should not give up and keep doing this welfare work. But like I say, the way I draw the line is when somebody starts to become offensive, in which case I'm doing a disservice to them, because by speaking to them, I'm allowing them to commit offenses against Krishna. And that way it was actually detrimental to that soul. So for that reason, I'll pull back and not mention anything to them. Otherwise, until then, I will gently carry on.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I'll gently carry on for now. Haribol.
Very well. Thank you so much. Does anybody have anything to add to what this very important point? This actually, how do we, especially family, is the hardest to preach to. I could sit here, I could speak to so many people, and people will listen. But most of my family, extended family members, will just just maybe even leave the room when I start to speak about Krishna. But that's okay. That's what happens. But you'll find one or two who will sit and listen, and that's worth it. Anybody want to share their experiences about how to preach to the family? I'm just looking at the time. Actually, it's almost 10 to 9, so perhaps we could call it a wrap. All right, devotees. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know today is Christmas Eve. I wish everybody very happy, safe, and healthy holidays, and look forward to seeing you all in the new year. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Shobhana
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Krishna Ji Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mukesh Bhai.
Hare Krishna, Umera Ben, Hare Krishna.
મુકેશ ભાઈ how can આપણે કેવી રીતે encourage કરાય આપણા relatives ને કે ભક્તિ માર્ગ એટલે ભગવાનમાં માનતા હોય પણ જે ભક્તિ હોય they are not interested that much.
તો આપણે દાખલા દેવાના આપણે કે જેમ ભક્તો આપણે જોઈએ છે કે કેવા આપણે વેસ્ટર્ન સોસાયટીમાંથી people from the western society, sorry, I can see some non-Gujaratis here on the line as well. So we can just give examples of so many people who have changed their lives, for the better, just by connecting themselves. And they don't have to, do the whole thing. They can just at least start reading, start doing at least one round. So we can start like that, very gently, try and encourage them to do. They will make progress. There's a message here from KKHH. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, but he said, absurdly, I say to you, there is not a prophet who is received in this town. This is from the Bible, something that Jesus said to his disciples. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm not that familiar with that particular line, but I'm not sure what it means. Will you want to expand on what that is trying to say, Prabhu? I always say Sandeep, but it's not Sandeep, I know. All right.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Sorry. Yeah.
Give me your name again. I need to connect your name with what's on the screen.
Hitesh.
Hitesh, yeah. I'll write down somewhere. Hitesh, Prabhu. Okay. Right, Hitesh, Prabhu. So what is this line saying? Absurd. He says, I say to you, there is not a prophet who is.
Okay. So another way to put it is in the Bible, Jesus, or prophet, whatever one wishes to believe. Yeah. And he returned to his hometown. Now, he grew up in his hometown. He was a child, and people living in the hometown knew him as a child, and he did naughty things, he did good things, or whatever. Yeah. So, having returned to his hometown, they could not believe this young child has grown up to be Jesus, prophet, a miracle worker. Yeah. So, he was not accepted as such in his own hometown. Yeah. So, what I'm generally saying is that if someone becomes very knowledgeable or transcendental in their own family, the family themselves and will generally not be able to appreciate that or understand that, because they've seen the history of this person growing up, falling, maybe having fights or whatever the case may be.
Exactly.
And in the same way, Jesus used these words.
That's a good point. Very good point you make, Hiteshwar. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, exactly. So even Jesus himself was not accepted by his own sort of town people.
In fact, they stoned him. They stoned him in his own town.
Yes.
And they said, "Prove us, show us a miracle." But he turned around and said, "You shouldn't tempt your God," or whatever. The point was that it's not for trickery state. It is not doing trickery. It's not just to prove fact. God doesn't need to prove anything. So he said to his disciples, that no prophet is accepted in his hometown, and that's kind of generally the case. So when you get a lot of fight back from your own family, firstly, if you're a child and you're grown up with your parents are vadil elderlies, they're knowledgeable in certain things, and they can't accept the fact that their own child knows something more than they know.
Correct.
Or becomes transcendental, or they think they're wasting their life, they're wasting their time. There's a lot of that which occurs within the own family,
That's so true.
rather than seeing the value. Sometimes we find they criticize, oh, why is he doing this? He could be making money. Why is he doing this? He could be doing some other kind of welfare work. Yeah, but there's in the our own community, there's lots of people who are losing their way. They have a misunderstanding, and they are moving, maybe even moving, getting converted to other religious sects, and the reason being is that the reason this is happening is there's a simple answer. And then once the children, they move into another religion, they become a different, Christianity, Jewish, or whatever they wish to be, and they become very fast in that. Now, the point is that, but if nobody within the family learns this knowledge of Krishna consciousness or Hinduism or being a Shiva, whatever, or even a Brahman, a Pandit, or whatever you want to call it, if nobody within our community learns this knowledge, it will be lost. And then you can't then complain, well, we are losing our religiosity. Everybody's just running away. By discouraging like someone to learn the Krishna consciousness, then the person thinks, well, okay, I don't learn it. But then the other side you find is that the parent turns around and says, well, that was because nobody was there to teach him. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. So what I'm trying to say is that truly, a prophet or a knowledgeable person is not accepted always in their own family as a knowledgeable person. And there's always going to be a lot of fight back. And this is the words of Jesus, which are proving true.
Yes.
No,
thank you. Excellent point. Thank you so much.
Sure. I misled slightly, but I need to articulate better, do we say?
No, I think you make a very, very good point, actually. That, who are we? If Jesus himself wasn't accepted, then who are we? So we should try, but we should not be disappointed when we are pushed back.
Okay, I'll put it in Gujarati. If I say it like this, Gujarati, they say, "Haro gari gyo amal, amang gari gyo." So Swaminarayan gari gyo, Krishna gari gyo. You know, it's a kind of flippant statement, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the answer to that is, "Awe koi chokra ke ema gare nahi, so પછી આપણું ધર્મ બધે ભૂલાઈ જશે." So you should.
આપણી સંસ્કૃતિ ભૂલાઈ જશે. You're right.
Yeah, that we need Amagarigo. We need these people to be lenient in this way, so for the future generations.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So rather than
Absolutely.
or being in such a way that, you know, it's or look down on it, you should look up to it, because
Exactly.
it's the most valuable thing.
So much,
you know?
so true. So true. But these people who criticize are actually materialistic people anyway, so they don't see any value in it.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly where it kind of comes from.
You're muted, Prabhu.
She's getting a pushback from the family, but that's understandable because the family are not ready. They're seeing things in a material form, and just as this verse was clearly articulating it, you know, this is the most important welfare. You know, rather doing you know, building a house or whatever, we were giving them a Krishna consciousness, which not only is valuable in this life, but is valuable in their future lives again and again and again, because there is no diminution. There's a verse in chapter 3, no diminution in this.
Yes,
if you learn
exactly.
it will save you from the most greatest of fear, which is death, because you know where you're going to go to. So in that respect, I mean, when they get the pushback, it's because firstly they're not ready, and secondly they are seeing things at a material level of it's a waste of money. No, it's not. Okay, it's considered maybe a waste of money, but it's not if you look at it from this angle, the transcendental angle, because you're not the body, you're the spirit soul, and this valuable information is going to help you not this life, next life, and the life after. So in that respect, it's valuable. And secondly, it's not a waste of money, because if you imagine, ISKCON is spreading the knowledge, but ISKCON is also feeding people. They are doing the material side of it.
Yeah, yes.
So it's working both ways. But firstly, all the Prabhupada started by chanting, and then slowly, as he started to see, he encouraged everybody to say, okay, he saw people were not being fed. Let us feed the people within a 5 mile or 10 mile radius, as per our position. So you know, when there is two sides to everything. So when you say, okay, I'm doing this, but ISKCON, and it doesn't say don't do welfare work. It says, yes, we're going out, we're feeding people. So it's not. It needs to be kind of presented instead of a silo, instead of a single point of view. It's presented in a more of a sort of rounded point of view.
Yeah.
So there is the material side as well as the transcendental side continuing. I mean, as we're learning the verses, we're focusing on one verse at a time to appreciate that one verse. And the grander overarching picture, if you know everything or all the verses, but also brings into play the material side of life as well.
It does, exactly. No, you make some very nice points. Thank you so much, Hitesh Prabhu. Thank you. I'm aware of the time now. It's 9 o'clock almost. So,
thank you. Sorry for taking and please accept.
No. You're making some very valid points. It's a shame that a lot of people now are logged off because you made some fantastic points. But thank you so much, Hitesh Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Bye.